Okay, so let me tell you a story. It's about a small family-run farm that grows the one and only king of fruits. We're going to see how it found itself right in the middle of a massive economic storm. And it was all triggered by something you probably scroll through every single day.
Yep, you heard that right. This isn't just a boring economics lesson about supply and demand. It's about how a single viral video can literally send shockwaves from your phone screen all the way to a quiet field in rural Malaysia. It's a real story about tradition, technology, and some very, very popular durians.
So, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off at Pesona Farm, this beautiful family-owned orchard out in Raub, Pahang. And this fella here, this is our main character, the owner, Uncle Razak. For years, his entire life has been about cultivating some of the absolute best durians you can possibly find. Now, you gotta understand, Pesona Farm isn't just any old farm. They specialize in the really premium stuff. We're talking Musang King and Blackthorn durians. And for the longest time, business was great. It was predictable. Uncle Razak knew his trees, he knew his harvest, he knew his customers. Life was pretty stable. Well, that is until 2025 rolled around. Because in 2025, everything, and I mean everything, changed. And it wasn't just one problem. It was a whole series of completely unexpected shocks that slammed into the farm one after another. It was a true perfect storm. The first hit, it came from Mother Nature. An unseasonal, absolutely brutal 2-week heat wave just scorched the orchard. And the result? A staggering 30% of the young, delicate durian flowers just fell off the trees. Poof. Just like that, nearly a third of his entire potential harvest for the year was gone before it even had a chance to grow.
And you know how it is? The problems just kept piling on. While he was still reeling from the heat wave, two of his most experienced, most skilled workers had to return home out of the blue. The new folks he hired, well, they were inexperienced and a lot slower, which meant that harvesting suddenly became this huge bottleneck. And then came the final, craziest shock of all. A TikTok food trend featuring Musang King durian just exploded online. Look, this wasn't just a small bump in interest. This was a flood. Suddenly, every single weekend, cars were lining up for kilometers outside Pesona Farm, packed with people who saw the fruit on their phones and, just like the quote says, felt like they had to try it right then and there. The demand was massive, it was immediate, and it was completely and utterly overwhelming.
So you've got a crippled supply on one hand and an absolutely insane surge in demand on the other. It was total chaos. To really understand what was going on here, we need to pull out a secret weapon, a key concept from the world of economics that makes sense of all this. It's called price elasticity of supply, or PES. Now, don't let the fancy name scare you off. All it really means is, how fast can you make more of your product when suddenly everyone wants to buy it and they're willing to pay more for it? It's really all about how responsive you can be. And this is a brilliant way to think about it. An elastic supply is like a rubber band. You can stretch it easily to meet more demand. Think about a t-shirt factory. They can just run an extra shift, right? But an inelastic supply, well, that's like a steel rod. It's rigid, it's tough to bend or change quickly. You can't just magically grow more durians overnight. All right, so let's take this idea and put it into action. Let's use it to finally make some sense of the chaos that was unfolding back at Pesona Farm. This is how we can diagnose exactly what went so wrong. This chart breaks it all down perfectly. First, the heat wave hits, and boom, his supply instantly becomes more inelastic. He just has less fruit to sell, period. Then the labor shortage makes his supply even more inelastic because now he can't even harvest the remaining fruit efficiently. So the crucial part is, when that massive TikTok demand spike finally hit, his supply chain had become that rigid steel rod. He just could not respond, no matter how high the prices went. This whole crisis forced Uncle Razak to a major crossroads. He realized he just couldn't keep running his farm the old way anymore. And this brings us to the big, high-stakes decision that could really determine the future of his entire family's business. And here it is, the question at the very heart of it all. Should he invest a pretty significant amount of money, 18,000 ringgit, in a piece of modern technology, an automated irrigation system? I mean, that is a huge gamble for a small farm. So what would this investment actually do for him? Well, the technology promised to keep those delicate flowers stable during dry spells, directly fighting back against the effects of a heat wave. The projected payoff was a solid 20% increase in output. But here's the real strategy. the big idea. This investment wasn't just about growing more durians. It was about making his supply more elastic. It was about turning that steel rod back into a rubber band.
This chart just lays it out so clearly. On the left, that's the farm's output during a crisis, like the heat wave. On the right, that's the projected output with the new tech. That 20% jump isn't just a number on a chart, it's a buffer, it's resilience, it's the ability to fight back against the unpredictable. And all of this brings us to our final section, where we zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because Uncle Razak's dilemma, it's not unique to him or his farm. This is a story that's playing out all over the world right now.
So, why does all this matter to you and me? Because this choice, it represents this fundamental conflict for so many small traditional businesses today. It's the challenge of trying to adapt generations of knowledge and tradition to a world where demand can explode overnight from a viral video, and where our climate is becoming more and more unpredictable.
And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. For businesses like Pesona Farm, businesses that are rooted in tradition and heritage, is embracing technology like automation the only real path to survival in our modern, chaotic, hyper-connected worlds? What do you think?